Hey, friends, in today's episode, we're chatting with someone who is close to me in my professional life. Her name is Kate Dilligan, the founder and CEO of the company Cooler Heads, and the company I work for as the Global VP of Sales and Marketing. So you're wondering, what is Cooler Heads? We'll get into that in a moment. But Kate has made some really bold moves and confident choices to build something incredible. We'll dive into her journey, the key lessons learned, and some surprising insights along the way. So, a little bit about our inspiring guest, Kate Dilligan. From a breast cancer patient to a medtech powerhouse, Kate has turned her personal battle of cancer into a bold mission. She's a former political fundraiser and Silicon Valley executive. Kate founded Cooler Heads to give chemotherapy patients the dignity of choice. The newest innovative FDA-cleared scalp coin solution designed to help patients minimize hair loss during chemotherapy, but has also taken a very patient-centered approach. The device she brought to market is called Amma, which also means mother in Tamil, because everybody wishes their mom was with them during a difficult time. With a Stanford MBA, 130 million in prior fundraising experience, she is relentless to fix what's broken in healthcare. Kate is redefining what it means to lead with purpose. So get ready for a lot of goodness and bold moves. Kate, thank you so much for being here today on Bold Moves, Confident Choices.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Courtney. I was really honored when you invited me on.
Oh, of course. And Kate, I'm just excited to have you here because you have such an amazing story and there's so many different levels of your story. But before we start diving into them, would you tell us all just a little bit more about you?
Sure. When I went to college, I really had no particular mission. I come from a family of academics. Both my dad was a professor, my mom was in education, and I had a passion for history. So I have an undergraduate degree in modern European history. And in my family, that was completely acceptable and to not have a career path. And I stumbled into politics after I graduated from college because not knowing what I wanted to do, there was a Democratic member of Congress in my home congressional district, and I interned there. And within a week, they needed somebody young that they could just work 100 hours a week on the campaign side. So offered me a job where I was making 1,200 gross a month and would be working all the time. And it turned out I was really good at political fundraising and worked throughout that campaign cycle, caught the eye of people at the DCCC, which is the Democratic congressional arm that helps Democratic congressional campaigns win. They sent me to do a special election in New Mexico. I got on a bunch more people's radars. And so at the age of 24, I was handed a choice between top congressional campaigns in California, which for anybody who's pays a little bit of attention to politics, California is kind of the ATM or one of the primary ATMs of the Democratic Party. And I chose to work for a woman named Loretta Sanchez, who was the first member of the Hispanic caucus to represent a non-majority Hispanic seat in Orange County, California, which at the time had been traditionally Republican. She'd kicked out of office this guy named Bob Dornan, who was a right-wing firebrand. And I'm starting with the story of Loretta because I chose to work for Loretta, even though the House was threatening to kick her out, because the House actually does have the capacity to choose its own membership. So the House was threatening to kick her out because she won her election by less than 900 votes. And it was going to be a hotly contested election. It was going to be one of the top races in the country. I had the attention of not only the DCCC, but Emily's List and these other Democratic organizations that were really invested in keeping Loretta in her seat. And I chose the thing that scared the crap out of me. I chose the thing that I wasn't sure I knew how to do. And it was that choice that I started making at 24 that took me to business school, that took me into tech and national security, and that's taken me here in Cooler Heads. It's that being willing to jump in, even when you don't know how you're going to pull it off.
So, Kate, what gave you that catapult to jump in to that moment?
It's interesting. It's kind of similar in politics, in my previous career, and here at Cooler Heads, is I had the mentorship of people who I really valued. And so at the time, there was a guy by the name of Derek Thompson, who was the guy at the DCCC who was helping staff the top Democratic races. He was a person in charge of making sure that they got good fundraisers in there, as well as a woman named Sam Smoot, who was at Emily's List, who's a big pro-choice Democratic women fundraising arm. And Derek and Sam told me I could do it. Derek and Sam said, we will help you. You don't have to know, but we like you. We trust you. We see that you're hardworking. Let's do this. And that helped give me the confidence to go in and do something. I'd never been finance director before. I'd worked on 2 campaigns at the time, but I'd always had people above me. I was now going to be top dog at 24, but they really encouraged me to jump in. So knowing that I had Derek and Sam behind my back, pushing me forward and being like, it's okay. You're not going to have all the answers. We're going to be here to help you. That made that decision a lot easier.
Okay, I want to highlight this for a moment because it reiterates that you don't have to do things alone, right? Like
Correct.
finding your tribe, finding your people, those individuals who will help support you and lift you through the journey, even though it was really scary.
Absolutely. It was terrifying. I mean, I'm 24 years old. I'm the finance director for the top target of the Republican Congressional Campaign Committee. I know that we're being scrutinized not only by the Orange County Register and the LA Times, but by the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, because this is a really high profile race. Like at the time, this is the late 90s, totally dating myself. Bill Clinton was president. But to have a Hispanic woman representing what was then bright red Orange County was a sea change event. I couldn't make a misstep because if I screwed up, it was going to be on the front page of the New York Times. And that actually is where I learned to think about, if you don't want to read it about it in the New York Times, don't do it.
That is something you stand by to this day. Everyone, I will tell you, I've
Absolutely.
heard that line several times. Okay, Kate, time for a big question. And what was that big, bold, confident move in your life that has taken things to the next level for you personally or professionally?
Going back to politics, quitting my job that I had when I had cancer to starting Cooler Heads is jumping into the unknown. It's okay to not have the answers. It's okay to not know what you're doing. The thing I think about a lot, I think I've told this to you, Court, the things I regret in life are the things I chickened out of. And so being willing to take the risk, that is the bold move, because you don't know. You don't know how the story's going to end unless you start.
Right. So, Kate, take us to the moment when you're diagnosed with cancer.
So I was actually on a business trip in New York. And when I went to New York back in the day, I stayed with my best friend, Gina, who lived just a couple of blocks from Penn Station. And I found a lump on my breast taking a shower at Gina's apartment before I had a business meeting in the city. And I bring up Gina because when we graduated from business school in 2003, Gina was diagnosed with breast cancer later that year. And she went through chemo, surgery, radiation. They thought that they got it, but it returned in 2005 as metastatic disease. So it's 2016. In the previous couple of years, I'd lost both my mother and my father. And I'm in Gina's apartment knowing that, and she was successfully managing her disease. Like if you didn't know her, you didn't know that if you didn't know her closely, no one had any idea. Like she was on every 3 weeks getting her septin. It was managing the disease. And she was living her life. We were traveling. We were having fun. We were doing all kinds of stuff together. She was my closest friend. Like she was my person. And I found this lump in my breast. And I was like, this side doesn't feel like this other side. I wonder what that is. And there's no history of breast cancer in my family. My mother had died of metastatic lung cancer, but she was a lifelong smoker. So that really wasn't that much of a surprise. I want everybody listening to really hear this part of the story. I called my doctor and I needed to get in to see my OBGYN. This is the end of September. His first appointment was mid-November. And my starting to advocate for myself started right there. And I said, I found a lump on my breast. I need to see somebody before that. And so they got me in to see one of his colleagues later that week. And it turns out I'd already started chemotherapy by the time I would have had that first appointment with him because I had really aggressive breast cancer. And I remember I was at a parking garage. I just gotten out of the grocery store when I saw the phone call from the doctor confirming that the biopsy was indeed cancer and that I had to go to the medical oncologist. And I just remember feeling cold all over, just like fear. And I had told Marsha, who's my other best friend, my best friend from college. And I told Marsha I didn't want to tell Gina until I knew what the deal was. I just didn't want to burden her with that until we really understood what the disease was. And I remember calling Marsha and crying and her just saying, "It's going to be okay. We're going to get through this." And it's been a journey ever since then. Because, like, here's the thing, once you have cancer, once you're told that diagnosis, I'm very fortunate. I now know evidence of disease, but they don't say I'm cured. And because it can always come back. And so I remain on tamoxifen because I had estrogen positive breast cancer. So it's to suppress the hormones because my estrogen fed the cancer. I'm going to be on that drug for another couple years. I get an MRI as well as mammogram every year, but like it never goes away. It's a monkey on your back that like you're always kind of wondering, is it going to come back? And it's an unknowable answer. I mean, you and I mean, Court, you do this too every day, right? We work with patients all the time. And I definitely have some survivor's guilt because I'm fine. And we work with so many people who aren't.
Right. So, Kate, help everybody understand a few things. What is the drug you're on, tamoxifen?
Mhm.
What is that? Secondly, can you explain what metastatic is
Sure.
briefly? And then really want to understand then when you were diagnosed, what that looked like for you.
Sure. So tamoxifen is a drug that basically takes estrogen out of your body. So I found the lump on my breast when I was 42. And so chemo throws you into menopause. And so when I was done with chemo, surgery, and radiation, they put me on tamoxifen to kind of keep me in early menopause because they want to strip all of that out of you. And so I actually had the Mirena IUD, which is an IUD and it also works with estrogen. That had to go too. So, like, you
Mm,
can't have anything. So, like, hormone replacement therapy, which is safe, et cetera, for most people, it isn't for me because I had estrogen positive breast cancer.
got it.
Metastatic disease, to your next question, metastatic disease is when the cancer spreads from its primary location to another location. And that basically means that cancer is incurable. It can be stage 4 disease, can be managed now. It is not, Gina lived for 13 years with metastatic disease, but metastatic disease means that the disease will eventually continue to spread. And that's a very scary diagnosis. And for me, what cancer looked like is my father had died in January of 2016. My mother had died in November of 2014. And my father had dementia and Parkinson's disease. Like, it was a very sad time in our family. And I was feeling like I was starting to come out of the grief. And then I was punched in the face by getting a cancer diagnosis. And I'm single. And so I don't have that partner or children or anybody else to rely upon. And what cancer taught me is that I need help. And, like, I'd had that help and that support and that mentorship in my professional career, but I'm very independent. I had to learn that I needed help. And being a chemotherapy patient in particular, so I got chemo every other Thursday. And chemo is not fun. Like, you don't feel great when you're doing it, but when you really start to feel like crap after chemo tends to be days 2 and 3. So like Saturday and Sundays were really, really hard. Those are the days where like you're just on the sofa and you really can't get up. And I learned that for me, even though I live by myself, I felt better when there was somebody else there. So I would ask friends to come and I called it chemo sitting me. And so, like, will you come and chemo sit me this weekend? So come stay in my guest bedroom. And do you know what we're going to do all weekend? Nothing. You're going to walk the dog. Maybe I'll walk with you, but I'm going to lay on the sofa. And I just wanted that comfort of somebody else being there. And it was a very, very vulnerable time. Like, I'm getting emotional even thinking about it. But I realized the first weekend I had chemo, I'm sitting in my living room. I had a rescue golden retriever at the time, and I'm really not feeling well. I'm just trying to read a book and just chillax. And then Cora goes and she throws up on the rug next to me. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, like, you don't get to be sick. I do not want to clean up dog vomit right now. Like, you've got to be kidding me. And I was like, I don't want to do this on my own. Not that I was going to make somebody else clean up my dog sick, but it was just like, I don't want to do this on my own. I need help.
Well, and for everyone out there who doesn't know Kate Dilligan, she is extremely independent and asking for help is not easy for you, Kate.
Yeah.
But I am really proud that you did realize that you can't do it alone. And just like here at Cooler Heads, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit more, but when you're diagnosed with cancer, and I didn't know this until I really got in the cancer world, Kate, how long is that process? How long were you in the thick of dealing with your cancer? From point of diagnosis to, let's say,
Mhm.
until your treatment is over, the main treatment side of it.
The main treatment. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I started chemo 2 days after the 2016 presidential election, but I found that lump at the end of September. So October, which is the month of my birthday, was just a flurry of appointments and figuring out what my treatment path would be. And the first time I walked into the medical oncologist's office, again asking for help, my friend Sarah was with me. And I do recommend for those of you out there, if you need somebody to come and support you when you're doing like a complex medical appointment, bring a friend who's a lawyer because they're going to ask really good follow up questions and take
Good
detailed
point.
notes. She was an assistant US attorney at the time. She's now in private practice. But I was hoping I had what I call cut it out cancer. Like people know that breast cancer doesn't necessarily mean chemotherapy. It can mean all kinds of things. It can just mean surgery. It can mean surgery and radiation. Or in my case, it was chemotherapy, surgery, radiation, tamoxifen, oral chemotherapy, and years of follow up care because my disease was really aggressive. So I started chemo in early November and was done with radiation at the end of July. But it wasn't until till the next spring that I was done with my course of oral chemo. So cancer changes everything. I
Yeah.
mean, I talked a little bit about it never really goes away, but when you're in the midst, especially if you're getting the kind of chemo that makes your hair fall out, like everything that you're doing in your life becomes secondary to that treatment, right? Like that promotion you were going for, that big project at work, that personal trip you were going to do, big family events, everything is now subsumed by your disease and your treatment. You're immunocompromised. You feel like crap after treatment. And I have to say, like, I think I was a couple standard deviations in the extreme of tolerating chemotherapy well. I think I put it down to being like from peasant stock, but everybody's different in how they tolerate it. And I tolerated it pretty well. I continued to work throughout it, but it just is so overwhelming and all encompassing. And it was getting to cooler heads. It was Sarah that found out that there was a therapy that existed that would prevent me from losing all of my hair. And for me to be able to compartmentalize my disease and to continue to work because we work with patients day in and day out who elect to go on medical leave. Well, I was an executive at a company and I was told if I went on FMLA, the Family Medical Leave Act, executives are exempt from that because they could say this is a critical position. Like I was basically told, and there was a lot of politics at that job where they tried to get me to take FMLA so they could fire me. But I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. So I continued to work throughout. So I would take every other Thursday off to do chemo, work from home on Friday, and be back in the office on Monday. And so having a way that I could continue to compartmentalize my disease by keeping my hair was a really big thing. Like Courtney knows me really well, but like I'm a really casual person. A lot of times I've got my hair pulled up in a messy bun, but keeping your hair during chemo allows patients to control the conversation about who knows that you're sick. Because if you all of a sudden have hair and then you don't, everybody's like, huh, are you sick? Did you shave your head for somebody? Is somebody in your life sick? And all of a sudden, anything that you're doing becomes about communicating the status of your disease to somebody else. That is a really, really emotionally taxing thing.
I want to share with everyone when I first learned about cooler heads and scalp cooling, I'm ashamed of myself because when I heard of this, I thought it was all about vanity until I started working with Kate and getting to know her story, our patients' stories. That's when I was like, oh my gosh, it is about so much more. I never put myself in your shoes, Kate, and I hope I never put myself in your shoes with cancer.
Absolutely don't get cancer. 0 stars, do not recommend.
No, I do not want that. But you realize it is about privacy and identity, telling your story on your own terms. The last thing I would personally want is going to the grocery store and having everyone look at me and being like, oh my gosh, she's sick. I hope she's okay, giving me the pity party, because that is the last thing I want.
We hear this day in and day out court from our
Yes.
patients. I forget who it was, but somebody just said it so articulately in a way I hadn't framed it before. But like keeping your hair during chemo allows you to straddle two worlds. So you're straddling the world of who you were before that diagnosis because your colleagues at work, your kids' friends' parents, like your kids' school teachers. You don't have to tell them what's going on with you. And then you can go into cancer land and go to treatment and deal with your medical team and do all the things that you need to do for treatment, but allows you to kind of to
Yeah.
go back and forth between the two, which is so empowering.
Yes, it definitely is. And we hear that all the time. So, Kate, you create cooler heads. Why did you create cooler heads? Why are we here today? By
Because
the way,
I just
everyone,
spent
we have our cooler head shirts on. Like
we do, we're twins.
yeah, we're twinning right now. But I'm sorry, Kate, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Why are we here at Cooler Heads?
Because I had to spend $8,000 to keep my hair. So I used manual cold caps, which are essentially gel caps that are frozen in dry ice. And you have to switch them on and off your head every 20 to 30 minutes before, during, and for several hours following chemotherapy. And it's a really rudimentary procedure. A friend of mine said the 1800s called and want their therapy back. And so if you think about it, like everybody's like jammed their wrist or their knee or whatever it is, had to ice it. Well, the ice melts, right? After about 10, 15 minutes, because our body's ambient temperature warms it back up. So that's why you're switching these things constantly on and off your head, because the method of action and why this therapy works is what we're doing is we're restricting the blood flow to the hair follicles, because the chemo that makes your hair fall out, it's essentially like I describe it as napalm. It's a blunt force instrument, and it is attacking every single fast growing cell in your body, because the cancer tumor, whether it's breast cancer, or colon cancer, or prostate cancer, or anything else, it's rapidly growing cells. So the chemotherapy is going after every fast growing cell. So it's going after the tumor, but it's also going after your nerve endings, your digestive lining, your white blood cells, your hair, et cetera, et cetera. And so by constricting the blood flow to the hair follicles, we're preventing them from absorbing that cytotoxic chemo that would kill them off. And I had to pay somebody because, again, I'm single, I'm very independent, and I was making a lot of money at the time. I paid somebody to come and switch these caps on and off my head every 20 to 30 minutes for 6 to 8 hours, depending on which of the chemotherapies I was on. The reason cooler heads exists is because the day before my third chemotherapy infusion, I got a call from the company saying, the person that we have for you tomorrow quit. So sorry. And like, that was it. And the thing is, if you miss one chemotherapy session, if you miss scalp cooling once, your hair follicles are going to get killed off. You either do it or you don't. It's very much a black and white thing with this therapy that we provide. And again, being me, I told the company that was unacceptable and that I was going to pay somebody, whereas normally paying somebody $500 here in San Diego. The company was based in LA. I told them they were going to find me somebody in LA to drive to San Diego. I would pay them $1,000 and pay their mileage and put them up at a hotel, and they would be there the next morning. And because this just felt so out of control. And like, I just at that moment, Courtney, just felt such rage that like I'd made this choice. I'd already spent $2,000 on this and they were going to take it away from me. And so I was like, we're not doing that. I had to wind up doing that twice. And that's how I spent more than $8,000. And so the whole concept behind Amma is, what is something that patients can do on their own that's portable, that's affordable. And you and I know the big news is that next year Medicare is moving the reimbursement for scalp cooling from a temporary reimbursement code to permanent reimbursement codes, which is what is going to get private payers on board to cover it. Because the National Comprehensive Cancer Network, which are the 33 academic institutions that set the standard of care for cancer patients, they all say patients with solid tumors should have access to this therapy. Like, it is part of treating the whole person. It is well recognized in oncology that allowing a patient to keep their hair during chemotherapy has a dramatic impact on their well-being. And Court, you and I see this all the time. 8% of patients who are told that they need chemo refuse it because they don't want to look their hair. Because to what you were saying earlier, they don't want to be pitied. They don't want to walk around looking like a cancer patient. And so we can take that worry off the table for them. So I started this company just as an idea, and kind of back to the politics story, having two people behind your back. In this case, it was my friends Kevin and Tracy that I kind of told them that I had this crazy idea because I'd quit the company where they tried to force me out. I had them to pay me to go away. I negotiated an exit with them when I was done with treatment. So I left on my own terms and I was trying to think of what do I want to do next. And Tracy and Kevin were like, we'd invest in that. And yeah, you should do it. And these are people who I went to business school with. They're so successful professionally. I have so much respect for them, and they're just my closest friends. And I was like, maybe I'll give it a whirl. And here we are today.
Here we are today. So, everyone, we have been in business officially selling Amma since 2022, July 2022.
When you
The de-
officially joined the team, you'd been consulting and I tricked you into joining
and
because I can play like four.
it's been a whirlwind ever since, but a lot of exciting news that we're going to end up sharing with you. But the big thing about Amma is it actually is owned by the infusion center. So we do not sell or rent to patients. It is something that the infusion center where the patient's getting treatment has to have the technology. So our team here at Cooler Heads has been busy the past 2.5, almost 3 years, running around trying to get Amma into every facility possible. In the meantime, our fearless leader, Kate, has been working behind the scenes trying to find major investors to allow us to keep making this impact, believing in changing just the patient care approach, making it very patient centered, bringing something to the forefront that is making a difference. So, Kate, share a little bit about kicking this product off, where we are today, and where you foresee Cooler Heads being.
Oh gosh. I mean, kicking this product off, it's so interesting. So I'm a solo female founder. And I said at the beginning of this, my undergraduate degree is in history. I was working in national security tech before this. Like, that's the company I was at where they tried to force me out. I do not have a background in hardware, making a physical product. And I certainly did not have a background in medical devices. And so when I wanted to build Amma, I wanted to have it to be a patient driven, easy to use, flexible platform that would be seamlessly integrated into infusion centers. And the attitude I got from investors was like, that's a nice idea. Let us know when you have revenue. Like, there was just a ton of skepticism. People didn't think that I would be able to do it. People didn't think that, well, I mean, that's basically it. People didn't think I could do it. People think I would quit and give up because I had never been a solo founder before, because I'd never done hardware. Like, there was no reason to place a bet on me just having been a patient. But I'm now pleased to say that we have closed our Series A. We are not yet able to be public with who the investors are, but I'm now part of the 2% of solo female founders that have raised more than $10 million. We've actually raised well over 20. Again, not going to be too specific about the amounts, but women founders raise dramatically less money than their male counterparts. That's just a fact. And so it is so exciting to have recently closed a significant Series A that will be over $11 million just for this one round. And once we're able to be public with who the investors are, these are heavy hitters who see that we are solving a problem. There's only two other competitors and they're actually merging. Scalp cooling to date has only been available at about 20-25% of infusion centers. So, like, we call them greenfield opportunities here at Cooler Heads, which means opportunities to bring scalp cooling to places that have never done it before. And 70% of our accounts have not offered scalp cooling until we made it financially feasible for them to do so. And then the other 30% we've taken from our competitors. So we're growing fast. And, what's really exciting is, Courtney, like, you've added just some bang up talent to our sales team. And we're getting AMAs out there throughout the country at some of the biggest health systems that have global reputations. So we're ready for this huge influx of patients that we're enrolling more and more patients every month as more of our infusion centers start enrolling. But once reimbursement kicks in January of next year, like, Sally bar the door.
So, Kate, let's rewind a little. And I want you to share, how does it feel? How does it
It
feel to
feels
be where you're at today and to be one of the 2% of female founders?
It feels wonderful. I mean, and that seems like such an inadequate thing to say, but like, it has been such a weight. And Courtney, like, your leadership on the sales team, Nick Disher, our colleague who runs our engineering and manufacturing, his leadership throughout this process to keep us all focused, to keep us all moving forward, to continue to make progress as we've raid this round. Like, I just know for all three of us, it's just been blood, sweat, and tears. So we're part of the San Diego startup ecosystem, even though, Court, you're in North Carolina and our sales team is across the country. But there's an organization called Connect, which is a big part of the San Diego startup ecosystem. And they do an annual event at the Padres where they invite founders that have been through the program and venture capitalists, whatever. So I was sitting talking to a VC at this baseball game, which the Padres won the week after we closed. And he looked at me, he's like, so do you like being a CEO? And I was like, this week? it's great. Because, as a startup founder, like if it gets to my desk, that means that it's either a hard decision or something isn't going well. I don't get to do like when we do like like I love hearing the good news, but a lot of times I spend my time on the things that are hard and that aren't going well and thinking about how can we make things better. But having this huge win and to be able to, I personally sent chocolates to the entire team to celebrate that we
Super
got
good.
this round done as a thank you to everybody who's continued to help us grow and make this amazing progress as we've gone through this raise. It's been transformational. I just feel like the weight of the world, the weight of my world in one sense is off our shoulders. But as I've been telling, you and Nick and the rest of the team, we now have very specific milestones we need to hit.
Exactly.
So it's like we all had a week or two to catch our breath and we've got board meeting coming up in June and we have a lot to do to report out to the board, but it's very exciting.
When going through all this, Kate, how do you keep your mindset in the right place? What do you do?
My poison is orange theory. And so having something where I turn off for an hour and like whatever that is for anybody out there, like having a thing where it's like, I'm working out so hard, I can't even really think about anything. That's really important. But very much like as I was going through cancer, is trying to compartmentalize it. There was a point in the negotiations between our new investors and our old investors, things got kind of sticky. And I was talking to our corporate counsel. She called me when you're getting a call from your corporate counsel at 6:45 in the morning. That's normally not a good thing. And so we were talking about how we were going to get through this sticky wicket. And I said, Karen, I've lost my parents, my best friend, and I've had cancer. We'll figure it out. We're just going to keep going. And you just have to say, like, you know what? Giving up and dying isn't the answer. So we're just going to keep going. And you just have to have that fortitude and just be like, we're just going to go because sitting here and whining about it isn't going to solve anything.
Right. And really reflecting everything you have gotten through to know that you're going to pull through this and you're going to make it happen.
Exactly. It's like, well, I'm still here. I've been through loss. I know what matters most, and we will figure this out.
Yeah. So, Kate, when you look back at your 18-year-old self, what would you tell little Kate today?
I would tell her to go for it. When I was graduating from business school, a friend of mine and I had an idea to do a roll up at veterinary hospital. So basically, going around veterinary hospitals are like dentist office, vets go to school to become vets, not small business owners. And our concept was let's buy a bunch of veterinary practices, make sure the vets are extremely well compensated. They have great benefits. It's a great place to work. Like we'll run the business and they'll just be vets. And I chickened out. When you're in Stanford Business School, people will give you money like crazy. It actually gets harder when you're out, but you come up with like some harebrained scheme of graduates. And it wasn't harebrained. We had a really good idea, but I was afraid because I had hundreds of thousands. I had debt from going to business school. And I was like, I don't know if we can do this. And I always think back to that and wonder, what if? And so I would tell my 18-year-old self to go for it because even if things don't work out, you're going to learn something. And we only get one ride. We only get one life, right? You only live once, like YOLO. And if you can really embrace that, I'm not saying go out and rob a bank or hurt other people, but if you're genuinely trying to do something positive in the world and you're just not sure how you're going to pull it off, go for it. The worst thing that happens is it doesn't work, but it's not like you're going to wind up with cancer. That can just happen. So go for it, is what I would tell my 18-year-old self.
Kate, I'm reflecting back on our conversation and time has flown by together. It keeps surfacing for me that just go out and do it. Take the risk. Like you just said, you would tell your 18-year-old self just to go for it. But at the same time, surround yourself with people who will encourage you, lift you up, but
Yes.
challenge you at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
And I would say, and that's still something that I have here at Cooler Heads, whether it's our investors or our advisors or Courtney, you as my partner in executive leadership. We talk about things, we give each other feedback, we think about how we can be better and have really frank, candid conversations. But that makes our working relationship so much more productive and richer because of
it does. It's been a really fun journey, Kate. 3 years. I can't believe it's been 3 years together. It's really exciting to see what's going to come in the future. And Kate, again, thank you so much for being here today. If people need to reach out to you, where do they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Kate Dilligan, easy. Like I absolutely read my incoming messages, super easy to find. Or if you want to go to Kate Dilligan on Instagram, you can see a lot of reels of my dogs.
which they are great as well. You can also find Cooler Heads at coolerheadscare.com. Happy to share more information with you. But everyone, thank you so much for listening today. Remember, go be bold, be confident, and be you. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to Bold Moves, Confident Choices. Remember, the boldest moves come from trusting ourselves and taking action. If you loved this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or share with someone who needs a little extra boost to boldness. Until next time, be bold, be confident, be you. Thanks.